This happened a few months ago. I was 35, recently laid off and looking for a small escape. Flea markets were my go-to. They felt vibrant, buzzing with life, and sometimes I found odd treasures that inspired my online shop. But that Saturday, it was different. I wandered to the far end of the market. There sat an elderly woman behind a table stacked with jars. Each jar contained strange, murky liquids. They swirled like something alive. The labels read names like Forgotten Dreams and Whispers of the Past. I felt a pull towards them. It was unsettling, yet curious. I approached her table slowly. She looked up, her eyes gazing past me. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Something in my gut twisted. I picked up one jar. It felt heavier than it looked. What was inside? I couldn't explain why, but I bought it. Quirky find, I thought, tucking it under my arm. Little did I know what I had invited into my life. Back home, I set the jar on my kitchen counter. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had crossed a line. That night, I tried to sleep but heard faint whispers. They drifted through the dark, sending chills down my spine. Was it the wind? My imagination? I didn't sleep well, tossing and turning. I woke suddenly. It felt like someone just brushed past me. My heart raced. The next day was worse. I went about my routine, but shadowy figures danced at the corners of my vision. They weren't clear, but they felt wrong. Every time I turned, I felt a coldness wash over me. I tried to convince myself it was stress from being out of work. But still, there was something about the jar that drew me in. That evening, I stared at it. More nightmares came. Distorted faces loomed close, whispering but never clear. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. I felt trapped, stuck in my mind. What had I bought? I remembered the elderly woman's gaze. Did she know what was in that jar? I felt scared to confront it, but I knew I had to. I couldn't keep ignoring it. Nights turned into something I dreaded. I heard the whispers again, clearer now. Then one night the voice called my name. It was soft, almost sweet. I turned toward the jar on my counter. No one else was in the room. My heart hammered in my chest. I couldn't breathe. "Is someone there?" I called out, but my voice trembled. Nothing answered. I felt an overwhelming urge to open the jar. What was I missing? What lurked inside? As I reached for the lid, I froze. It felt wrong, like I was about to uncover something dangerous. I stepped back, my body screaming at me to stop. I went to bed but didn't sleep. Shadows danced in every corner. I lay awake, haunted by what I had done. What had that woman sold me? Even now, I find it hard to forget. I still think about that jar. I still wonder why I felt so drawn to it, and why it called me in the silence of the night. The next morning I woke with the sun streaming through the cracks in my curtains. My head throbbed, reminding me of the countless hours I spent tossing and turning. I looked at the jar, its presence heavy in the bright light. But I knew I had to do something. Ignoring it wasn't an option anymore. I decided to reach out to my neighbor, a retired librarian. She always had a nose for the strange and unusual. I thought maybe she could help me understand what was going on. As I walked over, the morning air felt crisp, but with each step, I felt a growing tightness in my chest. What if I told her about the jar? Would she think I was losing it? I knocked, and she answered with her gentle, faded smile. I quickly explained the jar, leaving out the whispers, the cold shadows, and my anxiety. As I spoke, her expression changed. It was as if I had opened a door to something she had long buried. "That woman," she said slowly, "has been coming to the market for years. People say she sells more than just trinkets. Some believe she knows things she shouldn't." My stomach dropped. I didn't want to hear that. "What do you mean?" I asked, barely above a whisper. "Some say her jars contain the essence of memories, lost ones, forgotten loves. Others say they hold darker things. You have to be careful with what you invite into your life." Her eyes bored into mine, a mix of warning and fear. I backed away, feeling the chill of her words seep into my skin. I rushed back to my house, every step filled with urgency. I needed to know what was in that jar. The pull was undeniable, stronger than my fear. When I got home, I stood before the jar, the labels taunting me. Whispers of the past. I gritted my teeth and grabbed the lid. The urge to open it was overwhelming. Then, just as my fingers brushed the edge, the lights flickered. I froze. The shadows seemed to grow taller around me. I held my breath, waiting for the whispers to return. The sound of my heartbeat filled the silence. I cursed under my breath, wanting to be brave. Then everything went dark. I blinked, but no light returned. The darkness was thick, pressing against me. Panic surged. I stumbled back, clawing for the counter, but the jar felt like a beacon in the void. The whispers rose, louder this time. They surrounded me, swirling, growing frantic. "Open it," they called, their voices merging into one. "No," I gasped, my heart racing. I needed to escape this room, but I couldn't see anything. A cold breeze whispered past my ear, and I felt a presence behind me. I didn't know who or what it was, but I could feel its breath on my neck. It was close. I knew then, whatever was in that jar, I had to face it, or risk losing myself to the darkness forever. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The darkness clung to me, wrapping around my mind like a heavy fog. There was something in it that felt almost alive, a hungry presence just waiting to consume me. I strained my ears against the whispers, their urgency washing over me like a chill. "Open it," they hissed again, twisting into my thoughts. "Remember." The words sent jolts of recognition up my spine. What was it I was supposed to remember? I felt disoriented, as if I had fallen into a dream I couldn't wake from. I fought against the panic rising in my throat and took a step forward, seeking the light switch. My fingers brushed against the cool wall, a guide in the oppressive blackness. But as soon as I reached for it, the presence moved closer. I could feel the warmth radiating from whatever stood behind me. I turned, desperate to gain some footing in this suffocating void. But all I saw was the continuing darkness. "Who are you?" I shouted into the abyss. My voice sounded small and insignificant. I felt a shivering silence in response, and for a moment I thought perhaps I was alone. Until I heard it again. A whisper, clearer this time, almost like a name. My name. "Cassandra." My breath hitched. How could it know me? I felt bile rise in my throat as I thought about the jar. The lid was still perched there, waiting for me. With newfound determination, I reached for the counter again, finding it this time. The jagged edges of the jar felt cool under my palm. My heart raced as I unscrewed the lid, and a surge of air rushed out, smelling of something sweet and rotting all at once. The whispers swelled, wrapping around me like a warm blanket. Yet I could feel an undercurrent of something sharp, something dangerous. Then, I made the choice. I tipped the jar over, letting the contents spill out. A whirlwind of glowing lights and shadows cascaded in front of me, revealing faded images and specters. They danced around me, forming a carousel of long-forgotten memories. I saw faces I once knew, places I longed for. But then the colors shifted. Darker entities emerged, shifting shapes that hungered for acknowledgement. "Cassandra, you have to remember!" The voices surged, mingling with my own horrified breaths, as I recognized a few faces among the dark. People I hadn't thought of in years, those I lost, those I had wronged. "No, I don't want this," I screamed, my hands shaking as I retreated from the nightmare in front of me. I felt the cold fingers of regret brush against me, seeking entrance into my mind. But as I stumbled backward, I inadvertently knocked the jar off the counter. It shattered on the floor, releasing a final explosion of lights and shadows that scattered across my living room. The presence behind me shifted, the pressure against me lessening as the lights began to wane. Then everything froze. A single silhouette settled in the corner, sharper than the rest. It was a figure from my past, someone whose face was forever linked to my deepest fears. "Cassandra, we need to talk," they said, and just like that, the fear morphed into something worse. I took a shaky breath. If I thought things couldn't get any worse, I was dead wrong. The figure stepped closer, the dim light revealing familiar features twisted by time and sadness. My heart dropped. There stood my grandmother, once a comforting force, now a ghostly reminder of everything I feared losing. The air crackled with tension, and I struggled to breathe. "Cassandra," she said again, her voice softer this time, filled with an unsettling intimacy. "You're not free yet." I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. My mind raced as her presence squeezed me tighter. Memories surged like a tidal wave, drowning me in moments I thought I could forget. Her frail hands had held my own, warning me about the shadows that crept into our lives, the ones I had tried to ignore. "What do you want?" I finally managed to whisper, my resolve faltering. "You know why I'm here," she replied, moving closer. I felt a shiver run through me. The darkness began to slither back, filling the corners of the room. I wanted to run, but found myself rooted in place, paralyzed by fear. "Not again," I murmured. I remembered the last time she warned me. I dismissed her warnings then. I had brushed off her tales of curses and lost things. But standing in front of her now, I wondered if it was too late to listen. "Cassandra," she said, urgency creeping into her tone. "The jar was just the beginning. You have to face what you've hidden." The shadows flickered, their forms taunting me. I felt their hunger, and it was not just for memories. They wanted my fear, my regret. They thrived on the emotions I was too scared to confront. "Face it, or it will consume you." She gestured toward the remnants of the jar, its shards glinting like teeth strewn across the floor. "Why didn't you tell me?" I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. "Why didn't you just save me from this?" Her eyes darkened and pain etched deeper into her features. "I tried, Cassandra. But you must want to be freed. You must choose to confront them, not hide away." As her words hung in the air, the shadows began to gather, swirling like dark clouds. I felt their pull, a magnetic force drawing me deeper into my memories, my regrets. The lights that had first shone bright now turned dim, shifting with the dark energy filling the room. Shadows of people, whispers of wrongs unrighted, faces I longed to forget. The darkness seeped into my veins, wrapping around my heart. Then, a voice that wasn't my grandmother's broke through, sharp and demanding. "Cassandra, you are stronger than this." The presence shifted, indignant. I turned, searching for its source, but the shadows obscured every figure lurking behind them. "Look at me," the voice urged, desperate. It was familiar yet painful to hear. That's when I saw it, a reflection within the encroaching darkness. I gasped, realizing the truth. It was me. I was the one I had been avoiding. And suddenly understanding flooded back. I needed to confront the truth, not just the past. But the question loomed heavy. Could I face myself, knowing what I had hidden? The shadows closed in tighter, leaving me no room to hide. I took a deep breath. I had to choose. I steeled myself as the shadows writhed closer. My heartbeat drowned out everything around me. The tightness in my chest felt suffocating, but I couldn't back down now. I had to face myself. I had to confront the fear that clung to my spirit like a shroud. "I'm here," I said, my voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" The dark shapes recoiled for a moment, as if my words were a light breaking through their murkiness. Then they surged forward, a tide of whispers crashing against me. Shadows twisted into faces I recognized, abandoned dreams, lost friends, memories I'd locked away and quietly ignored. "Stop," I cried, throwing my arms up in desperation. What do you want?" As if in response, the figure of my grandmother stepped forward from the mass of shadows. There was a sadness in her eyes, but something new, too. Determination. "Cassandra, they only want what you've buried. You cannot run from your fears. You must embrace them to move on." "But I'm scared." The admission cut through me. I had spent years building walls to protect myself from the pain. It wasn't just shadows. It was everything I hadn't wanted to face. The guilt, the shame, the complications of life that I had tried to ignore. "Fear is a part of you. It doesn't go away by hiding," she said. "You must learn from it. Trust yourself." Suddenly, a surge of energy filled the air. A brilliant light emerged from within me, pushing the shadows back just enough for me to breathe. I grasped this moment, the flicker of strength, and stepped forward. "Yes, I took the easy way out," I shouted, my voice rising. "I ran when I should have faced it all. I ignored your warnings, my pain, everything." As the truth tumbled from my lips, the air thickened. The shadows hissed, furious, but I stood my ground. I had to face this. Then, an unexpected thought shot through me. What if the jar was a symbol, a link to everything I didn't want to confront? It struck me like a bolt of lightning. I remembered the whispers, the unease, the look in my grandmother's eyes. I have to go back, don't I? I need to see what's really inside that jar. I have to reconnect the pieces of my past. With each word, the shadows began to retreat, and the faces faded. The energy morphed, becoming less of a threat and more like a guide, urging me toward resolution. "Trust in what you find," my grandmother whispered, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. "And remember, I'm with you." But just as I felt a glimmer of hope, the room around me darkened again. The presence surged back, angrier this time. "You think you can just walk away?" It growled. "Who are you?" I demanded, taking a step back. The shadows coalesced, twisting together to form a shape. The figure was shrouded, its face hidden beneath a dark hood. "Your fear," it echoed, its voice a haunting growl. Panic surged through me. I realized that this would not end peacefully. I had stirred something far more dangerous than I anticipated. Before I could react, it lunged forth. I felt an icy grip close around my throat. Then everything went dark. I gasped as the darkness wrapped around me. The grip tightened on my throat, squeezing the breath from my lungs. It was suffocating. But then, a flicker of resolve surged through me. I couldn't let fear consume me again. I kicked and elbowed, free to grapple against an unseen enemy. It felt like fighting against the wind, frustrating and maddening. Just when I thought I was going to lose consciousness, the grip released. I fell to the floor, gasping for air, the cold chill lingering on my skin. I blinked, adjusting to a dim light that slowly crept through the shadows. The figure was still there, but now it loomed like a dark fog rather than a solid form. Its presence pulsed around me, threatening to converge. "Why won't you face me?" it hissed. "You think you can escape?" "I'm not trying to escape," I shouted, infusing my voice with defiance. "I'm trying to understand." For a moment, the shadow hesitated, the air stilling as if waiting for my next move. I took a breath, letting the fear fold back just a bit. "If you are my fear, then you're a part of me. But I can't be ruled by you. I won't let you control my life anymore." The shadow writhed, a low growl vibrating through the room. "You think you're brave, but you're broken. Your past defines you. It will always be there." In that moment, I felt the icy fingers of doubt creeping back in, but I couldn't let it. I thought of the jar, filled with everything I buried deep. I needed to confront what was inside, to find strength in those painful memories. "Tell me what I need to see," I demanded, my voice steadier than I felt. "Show me." With my words, the shadow seemed to shudder. It transformed, twisting into a myriad of shapes, memories flashing, my grandmother's laughter, my first heartbreak, the thrill of pursuing my dreams, mixed with the pain of loss. Suddenly I stumbled back, overwhelmed. I recognized a familiar face staring back at me from the shadow, somebody I thought I'd lost forever. Not him, I whispered, a sense of longing flooding through me. But that was when I heard it, a low, broken voice echoing from within the shadows. "You can't forget me, Cassandra." It was my father. Dad. No. I staggered backward, my heart racing. I had buried our relationship under layers of hurt and regret. The truth of his absence loomed over me like a storm. "Face what remains," the shadow said, now dripping with a tone that was eerily familiar. "It's time to set the past right." Before I could comprehend, the shadow lunged again, this time solidifying into my father's form. He reached out a hand, but something deep inside me screamed to turn away. I stood frozen, unsure of my next move. This was the confrontation I'd dreaded. Would I embrace it or let it slip away once more? Then I remembered the jar. Wait! Just then, the shadow shifted again, the room swirling around me. Everything grew dark as my own fear rose to a powerful crescendo, leaving me with just one question. Would I finally step into the light, or would I be consumed by the darkness? I stumbled backward as the darkness deepened, my mind racing. I could still feel the warmth of my father's hand reaching for me, yet everything around us shifted. I had no idea where it would take me or what it might unleash. Suddenly, the dark fog started to dissolve. I blinked, and the familiar scent of old books filled the air, overwhelming in the best way. I was no longer in the room with the shadow. Instead, I found myself at the flea market, just outside my series of memories. The tables were barely visible through a light drizzle, and I could hear the chatter of vendors mixed with the laughter of children. Amidst the chaos, a figure caught my eye. An elderly woman stood behind a table cluttered with trinkets and strange artifacts. Her eyes, sharp and knowing, held a hint of mischief as she beckoned me closer. "Come here, dear. I have something you might want to see," she called, her voice both raspy and inviting. I hesitated, unsure what the strange woman could possibly offer me. But the pull was magnetic, a voice in my head urging me forward, as though I needed to know what was hidden there. As I approached, I could see the assortment of objects on her table, dusty old dolls, tarnished jewelry, and an unsettling collection of small jars filled with murky liquids. My stomach twisted. "What are these?" I asked, glancing at a jar that seemed to throb under its own weight. "They hold memories," she replied, a sly smile spreading across her face. "Each one tied to a different soul." I felt an urge to scoff, but the weight in my chest reminded me of the shadow I had just faced. Glaring at the jars, I could feel them calling to me. "What kind of memories? Why do you have them?" I pressed, my curiosity growing. She leaned in closer, almost conspiratorial. "They are not just memories, dear. They are pieces of fear, regret, joy, each one telling a story. You can choose to take one, but be warned. Some truths are better left hidden." Panic flared inside me. I was still wrestling with my father's shadow, convinced I was finally gaining control. I can't take that on right now," I stammered, feeling my resolve slipping. The woman chuckled softly, but her smile felt more like a warning. "Remember, sweetheart, the past is relentless. It follows you until you decide to confront it." Just then, she lifted a small jar. This one clear but filled with twisting tendrils of shadow that seemed to reach out. "This one is for you, dear. It holds what you've buried deep. It has your father's name on it." I felt the ground shift beneath me and took a step back. "No, I can't handle this. Only you can decide what to do." "Take it or leave it," she said, her tone almost indifferent. "But remember, those who run from their shadows are never truly free." Panic coursed through my veins. I glanced around the flea market, uncertain of my next move. I wanted to flee, yet something inside me was curious. What could I find in that jar? The elderly woman watched me, the weight of her gaze pressing down as if the air had grown thicker. That's when I noticed it, an inscription on the jar's lid that read, "Face what remains and set the past right." I hesitated. Would I risk it all to confront my father's memory? Or would I let this moment slip through my fingers, haunted by a shadow I couldn't bear? I took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions raging inside me. The rain began to pick up outside, pattering rhythmically against the tables. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Whatever was in that jar was waiting, just like the shadow had. "Just take it," the woman urged, her eyes suddenly intense. "You can't ignore it forever." I was torn. My heart raced as I considered the possibility of knowledge mingled with pain. "What if it's too much?" I whispered, mostly to myself. "It usually is," she said matter-of-factly, "but it's your choice. Remember, only you can confront your past." Her voice softened, almost gentle, as if she understood my struggle better than I did. Glancing once more at the jar, I saw the darkness swirling inside, angry and restless. I thought about my father, all the moments I wished I could relive or rewrite. But was I truly ready to face the hurt he had left behind? I took a step closer, reaching for the jar. The moment my fingers brushed against the cool glass, a jolt of electricity coursed through my hand. Memories flooded my mind, my father's laughter, my mother's tears, and dark silences that stretched longer than I could bear. "What do I do now?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Now you decide," she said cryptically. "When you're ready, just open it. The truth will unfold." I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the jar heavy in my palm. I could turn back, walk away, and pretend everything was fine. But deep down, I knew it would never be fine until I faced my past. The air thickened with anticipation. I glanced at the people moving about the flea market, their laughter now a distant echo. They seemed blissfully unaware of the turmoil crashing over me. My thoughts turned chaotic as I imagined scenarios where I might fail, where opening the jar could unleash a storm I couldn't control. "Time waits for no one, dear," the woman said, watching me with a knowing smile. Through my fear, I deciphered a spark of encouragement in her gaze. "You have the strength within you." I closed my eyes. This was it. I needed to confront the shadows. With a shaky hand, I unscrewed the lid, expecting some form of explosion or revelation. The moment the seal broke, a wispy tendril of shadow escaped, curling into the air before dissipating like smoke. My heart pounded in my chest. Then everything turned dark. Not the comforting darkness I had felt before, but a vast emptiness that swallowed me whole. I gasped as memories crashed over me like waves. "Please, no," I shouted, but the darkness only deepened. An overwhelming sense of fear gripped me. Then a voice echoed from the shadows. "You summoned me." I froze, dread coursing through every part of me. It was his voice, the one I had feared the most. "Father," I breathed, realization dawning. What had I just unleashed? In that moment I understood I had no choice but to face what I had buried. I had opened the door, and now there was no going back. "Please, no," I cried again, desperate to will the memory away. But the darkness loomed larger, and that voice crept closer, like a shadow stretching in the fading light. "Why did you bring me back?" it asked, the words curling around me like smoke. Each syllable pulled at the taut strings of regret and longing within me. "Stay away," I shouted, feeling vulnerable and small. But the darkness had no boundaries. It wrapped around me like a suffocating blanket. I shut my eyes tight, hoping to wake up. but I was still here, engulfed in the torment. I am a part of you, whether you want it or not. The voice continued, as cold as the chill in the air. You cannot turn away from your past. A surge of rage flickered within me. You're wrong, I can ignore you. I forced myself to open my eyes, determined to confront this shadow, to reclaim my voice. And there it was. My father stood before me, his face a blend of warmth and darkness. Time had not changed him. He still wore that same crooked smile, but his eyes held a void that sent shivers down my spine. You think you can escape the truths of what you did? He said, stepping closer. Stop! I yelled. You don't get to dictate my life anymore. With each word, the emptiness around me pulsed, threatening to swallow everything whole. I felt anger and sadness battling within myself, raw and potent. The memories came flooding back, all those times I had wanted to shout at him, to pour out all the hurt he left behind. This isn't about me, he said, his voice a mere whisper now, yet it echoed louder than I'd ever heard. This is about you, and what you've ignored. Thoughts raced through my mind. What had I been ignoring? I reached deep within me, searching for the truth, the part I had kept hidden for so long. Suddenly, a memory surged forth, my mother's face crumpled in despair, the day he walked out. Do you remember her? He asked, a touch of vulnerability in his tone. Do you remember how I left you both? I clutched my head in disbelief. You think I've forgotten? You think I wanted to remember? The shadow realm grew heavier as his presence surrounded me, pulling at the frayed edges of my resolve. Then why did you open the jar? Why did you insist on digging up the past? That was when I realized my fear wasn't just about him. It was about confronting myself. I was ready to face it, to face both the pain he caused and the strength I could find within. Because I want to reclaim my life, I declared, glaring at his shadowy form. As I spoke those words, a light crackled around me, slowly pushing back the darkness. The memories flickered brighter, taking shape and color. I could see her, my mother, smiling at me. I could feel the warmth of happier moments. With renewed determination, I stepped forward, the air crackling with energy. I have my own story now. You may have haunted my past, but you don't control my future. Just as I spoke, I felt a shift in the atmosphere. The shadows behind him wavered as if they were losing strength. What are you doing? He hissed, face contorting with rage and confusion. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter with each moment that passed. I am taking back what you tried to steal. And that's when I saw it. A shimmer in the void. A way out. The edges of the darkness began to blur, and I could feel the pull of freedom calling me. As I turned to escape, a chilling whisper followed me. You can't run from the truth forever. But I was done hiding. I stepped into the light, feeling it embrace me as I vanished from the shadow's grasp. Breathless and shaken, I found myself back in the flea market, standing before the old woman. Her eyes widened in surprise, a knowing glint there. My heart was still racing, but I felt a strange sense of clarity. Now you understand, she said softly. But before I could respond, my mind swirled with questions. What had I just released? And more importantly, was this truly the end? My journey was far from over. Days passed, and I thought I had escaped the shadow I'd unleashed during that encounter at the flea market. I returned to my everyday life, but unease lingered beneath the surface. I moved through mundane routines, checking emails, shopping for groceries, chatting with neighbors, as if everything were normal. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something far deeper had been awakened. The shadows didn't fully leave me. Whispers of forgotten memories crept in during quiet moments. They questioned my choices, testing my resolve. I often found myself staring at the empty space on my kitchen counter where the jar had once sat, its presence now replaced by an uncomfortable void. What if I hadn't opened it? What if I hadn't faced my father? The what-ifs echoed in my mind, often leading me down dark corridors of doubt. One evening, I decided to take a walk through the neighborhoods nearby. A ritual to remind myself of life beyond the chaos within. The air was crisp. The street lamps cast orange glows on the damp pavement. Just as I began to feel the weight lifting from my shoulders, I noticed a flicker near the park. It was that same elderly woman from the flea market, standing beneath a bare oak tree, her eyes uncomfortably fixed on me. I hesitated. Should I approach her or flee? She held something small and glistening in her palm, but I couldn't discern what it was. As if sensing my indecision, she waved me over with an air of unhurried confidence. "Back to see me so soon?" she asked teasingly. The warm notes of her voice contrasted with the chill lurking in my heart. "I didn't expect to find you here," I admitted, unwilling to divulge the turmoil whipping through me. "I'm here because I must remind you, dear, of what you've opened." Her eyes sparkled with wisdom that felt age-old, as if she was inviting me to a dance I didn't know the steps to. The worry twisted again in my gut. "What does that mean? I've moved on." "Moved on," she laughed softly. "Moving on is not the same as confronting what lies beneath the surface. You face what you buried, or the shadows will keep returning like restless spirits." I didn't know how to argue with her insight. Something deep inside resonated with her words, because if there was one thing that my confrontation had taught me, it was that real freedom requires clarity over fear. She held out her hand, revealing the small object, a tiny glass jar, much like the one I had shattered. Its contents shimmered, casting delicate reflections across her aged skin. "This is one of many," she said, "representative of what you could reclaim if you're ready to face both the light and dark of your past." A flicker of dread wove through me. I recalled the warnings, the remnants of regret that still clung to my consciousness. And if I choose not to? If I just leave it? I dared to ask. Then those shadows will keep drawing closer, lingering in the corners of your mind, waiting for the moment you're weakest. Her expression sharpened. "You must listen to your spirit to find peace, but it's your choice, dear." I stayed silent, feeling torn. Could I really confront the darkness yet again? The memories of my father's absence flickered like dying embers in my mind. "That is the question you need to answer," the woman urged, her smile tinged with a hint of sympathy. "Remember, just like fear can consume you, understanding can liberate you." With trembling hands I reached for the jar. The reality of my choice rushed over me, powerful and humbling. "I can't just ignore it. I want to face it," I whispered, the weight of my decision pressing down. "Good." Her voice was gentle yet firm. "But be prepared. Shadows can be much colder than you remember." I nodded, everything falling into place, yet the anxiety rippled beneath my skin. I could feel the breath of those memories drawing closer again, whispering promises and shadows of truths yet to be told. As I stepped back into the glow of streetlights, the sensations of familiarity and fear collided. I was ready to reclaim not just what I had lost, but also what I could learn from it. The jar was open again, the choice laid bare, but somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I wondered, was I truly prepared for what lay ahead? What echoes of the past would come rushing back to me now? The shadows were a part of me, but they wouldn't define me any longer. I walked away, feeling the humid warmth of the evening air. As my footsteps echoed on the pavement, I heard a whisper, a haunting memory, perhaps my father's voice beckoning me. Cassandra. Some questions remained unanswered, as did the fine line between my past and the inevitability of the unknown future. The road ahead appeared perilous, but I held onto one notion. I would no longer run. I had chosen to confront my echoes, step by step. And that was enough.